Why was 1940 the only logical moment to return to Tommy Shelby?
I wanted it to be 1940 because that was the height of the Blitz in Birmingham. So that's when bombs were dropping pretty much every night. And as a consequence, the consequence was the same in every city, was that when people weren't really sure they were going to be alive tomorrow, they tended to enjoy themselves. So, there's a spirit of hedonism in the city. There's people doing things they wouldn't normally do. Add to that the Peaky Blinders, then add to that Tommy Shelby. And it was when, because part of the story of the film is a plot by the Nazis to bankrupt the British economy. This was at a time when Britain was the only country that was in Europe that was standing alone. And so therefore it was sort of feasible that it could have worked. And so when Tommy makes the decision he makes, it sort of affects the course of the war, which affects the course of history.
What makes this a necessary ending? Does making this film feel like closure?
For me, absolutely closure on that character. And that's why it was so important to get it right and so important to get the cast that we got and to get Tom, who...
Of course.
Tom directed some of the shows in Series 1, and then subsequently every series that came along, first question was, can we get Tom? And he was always busy, but then we got him back for this. So.
How was it like coming back?
Yeah, it was really nice. It was like coming back to, to work with Steve and Killian again, and the rest of the... Actually, there was quite a considerable amount of cast and crew who was on that first season 12 years ago. My DP, for example, George Steele, I met on that first season and have worked with ever since, and so came back to this as well. So there was a real continuity there, but also just like the chance to tell this particular story, this particular chapter in the life of Tommy Shelby, and have it writ large on a cinema screen, and to get to now, there's so many fans all over the world, and to be able to tell this story on such a global level, it feels like a real, great privilege.
How did you expand the visual world without losing the grit that defined the show?
I think the show has always... it was a stipulation at the very beginning for me that although we show urban environments and quite poor urban environments, it's always beautiful. And that was absolutely a condition, that we didn't want to make it look like a terrible place to be, because people living in that environment don't see it as that. They see it as their world. And so as we expanded it into cinema, it was the same, really. The idea that we're going to look at this environment, look at this city, look at the fires on the bomb sites and make it like hell, make it dramatic. And that's what Tom did.
What was the single most difficult scene to stage in the film?
There's the scene in the pig pen with the fight in the mud. That was day one.
Wow.
We did that.
Strong start.
That was very, very challenging for all sorts of reasons, because it was pouring with rain. Everyone was caked in mud. The pigs were trying to eat us. I never really believed before this film that actually, pigs would eat a whole body. And I read it in the script, and I was like, do we buy that? And then I did a bit of research, and I found that they definitely do.
They'll eat anything.
And you don't even need to be dead. They'll try and eat you while you're alive. If you didn't kick them off, they don't eat you aggressively. They just you're like, oh, here's some food. I'm going to try and eat it.
Disturbing but realistic.
Yeah.
What did cinema allow you that television couldn't really?
The budgets helps.
Okay.
That's always good.
Sure.
But I think it's not what it allows, it's what it insists upon, which is beginning, middle and end, tie up everything and be very focused on one thing, which was Tommy Shelby himself.